Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Football Daily Weekly. Good to see you once again. Lawrence is here and Rory Jennings from Chelsea Fans Channel. Pleasure, no doubt, you're beaming after the weekend's results, but we'll get onto that in just a sec. There we go, we've got a second. We're going to talk about Chelsea first. Chelsea. Mourinho's got a new team to dominate. Rory, would you agree with that?
I would. It's been an incredible season, and obviously that stems from Mourinho and Mourinho's input. It's been a very Mourinho-esque season. I think that's been pointed out a lot lately. But yeah, it's been fantastic for us. It's been a really, really good season. We've won 2 out of the 3 trophies available domestically, so can't ask for much more, really.
Yeah, well, the 3, but you know.
Well, I suppose you could ask for the 3, yeah.
Disappointing, really, isn't it?
It was 2 out of 3 ain't bad, as they say.
Said Jose. Yeah.
It was inevitable Chelsea would win the league, of course.
It was inevitable.
Yes.
Yeah. No, although I do like the Guardian Sport today saying Mourinho's edge makes him the best.
Right.
Fabregas is right in that sense, isn't he? That he does have an edge over the rest of the league, somehow managerially. Although part of his edge this season was that he had his feet under the table, and the previous season he'd been afforded a lot of time to craft a squad and essentially work out what it was that they needed to do at Chelsea. Because, I mean, other managers might not have had that time, especially considering how expensive the squad was, etc., etc. And this season we're seeing the benefit of that.
Mourinho last season, Rory, said that he said they weren't going to win the league. But they would probably. Did he say? I think he said that it was on for the next season.
Yeah, I think
which is this
it's
season.
a 2-year
And they were a
plan.
striker away, and of course they got Costa in.
Yeah, I think Mourinho did brilliantly last summer, where he highlighted exactly where Chelsea were lacking, and that was a central midfielder and a centre forward. And he did brilliant work in the transfer market. You know, getting hold of Cesc Fabregas when, for reasons that are known only to him, Wenger decided he wasn't right for them, and getting hold of Diego Costa, who allowed Chelsea to establish such a lead at the beginning of the season. It was Costa's goals that rocketed us away from the chasing pack, and they never quite. I know Manchester City made a brief attempt at clawing back the lead, but it never really felt like anybody was anywhere near us.
What do you think about that, Rory? I mean, they've scored 105 goals, something like that, in all competitions. Chelsea. They played some really good stuff over the season. Okay, in the last handful of games, they've just made sure. Yeah. Really. Do you think did you find that a bit unfair, boring Chelsea?
Yeah. Well, I mean, we sing it as a chant quite regularly, as in an ironic sense. But I don't think that there's anything boring about it. I don't think that you can really throw the boring label. It's efficient, but when you have players of the caliber of Oscar and Eden Hazard and Cesc Fabregas, they play sexy football. They subscribe to that Newcastle theory, you know, under Ruud Gullit, where it was sexy football. Players like that don't have it in them.
For many years. Sexy football.
But they don't. But I genuinely don't think that a player like Eden Hazard has it in him to play boring football. It's beautiful, and they throw that label at Chelsea. And I don't understand quite where it comes from. I think it's
from the tactics.
efficient.
I think that it is actually quite boring to watch.
Well, it depends. I don't necessarily think that boring. I don't find defensive play, and I appreciate defensive football. I think it's an art form within itself. I think that watching John Terry win a 50-50 or lead a back line to a 0-0 in the Nou Camp is actually. Well, to a degree, I think it is. I think that the game that we played against Barcelona, where we won 1-0 at home, was scintillating.
I respectfully disagree with that. I think I agree with what you're saying in that there is something in that and there's something to be respected there. But what I don't like is the moralising around it, that they shouldn't be able to play that boring football.
Yeah, absolutely.
I do think it's boring to watch. For a neutral, I find it very boring to watch. What I'm saying is I don't necessarily have a problem with it being boring for me. I think Chelsea have the right to play that football if they want. I understand where you're coming from, but I also see the criticism that a lot of other people make. I was with an Arsenal fan when it was, when Chelsea won the title on the weekend, and he was fuming. He was absolutely furious. Yeah, exactly. And that did make me a little bit happy because it was like, you know what, you've got to have your cake and eat it, essentially. Indeed. And I think at the same time, Chelsea have to have their cake and eat it and accept that other people are going to be critical of that. And that if you've got a manager like Mourinho, it is going to get up other people's noses and piss other people off a little bit. Well, and if that's how you're going to win...
I'm sure Mourinho would probably say, let them eat cake. Juventus, the old lady, is back in business and going for the treble, no less. They've won Serie A. I say they're back. I mean, obviously, they've dominated
Where did
Serie
they
A,
go? Four in a row.
That's right.
Where did they go?
Yeah. But certainly in European terms, they're very much back for those who remember those glorious sides of the mid-90s and the early 90s as well.
Don't worry.
Yeah, that's it. Trust me on that one.
Trust people who are old enough to remember that, all right?
But yeah, they've been great this year. Again, I mean, is it a case, what you said about Chelsea, that the competition hasn't been great, really. I mean, the Milan sides are having a dire time. The Rome sides, well, in particular, Roma dropped off, didn't they?
They put in a bit of a challenge earlier in the season.
They did, but Juventus quite handsomely dealt with that.
Yeah.
But
Thank you.
Allegri's debut season, I mean, a lot of Juventus fans weren't happy with Allegri's appointment. He's come in and he's won it in his debut season, like he did at Milan.
First manager to do that.
Right.
Yeah, first manager to win 2 debut seasons with those sides in Serie A. So that's very interesting in the first place.
Rory, you've been impressed with Juventus this season. I mean, Carlos Tevez has been fantastic. Pogba,
Yeah, absolutely.
Vidal.
Yeah, they've got a fantastic team, you know. And when you've got a player like Pirlo in the middle, you're always going to play nice stuff, and I don't think that's ever in doubt. I just don't think that it's necessarily the global resurgence that people may think it is. I think
semi-final of the Champions League.
Absolutely, but huge underdogs, and I think that's very revealing. I think the fact that Juve are now in a semi-final is a huge testament to the job that they're doing, but I don't think anybody's really giving them a prayer. I'm certainly not. I'm speaking for everybody. Italian football is still struggling.
But they're very much the leading light of a
yes,
of a
the only light. The only light, really. I think that Italian football is still on the ropes. I mean, I think that we are probably all of a similar generation. And when I was a kid growing up, it was the pinnacle of football. All the best British players, Paul Ince, David Platt, Paul Gascoigne, all went to ply their trade in Italy because it was the zenith of European football.
That's right.
That is certainly not the case now. And although Juventus had a great season, and I hope they do very well in the Champions League, I don't think that we're even close to seeing those days back.
Something is very, very wrong at Newcastle United. This we've known for a little while, but my goodness, 8 defeats in a row speaks for itself, gentlemen. John Carver's having a terrible time, Lawrence, isn't he? I mean, he was the coach that was promoted to manager, and a big fan of the club, as we all know. You're not going to turn that position down, are you? But do you feel sorry for Carver? Or do you think he's a bit the architect of his own downfall, or is it's much bigger than that?
It's a strange one, isn't it? I think Chris Hennage, the guy who normally sits here with those dreamy eyes.
Not normally, the odd time.
Yeah, from time to time does sit here with dreamy eyes, and he says, Newcastle fans never said get rid of Pardew and bring in Carver. They said get rid of Pardew and bring in someone who can do the job they want them to do. And I mean, that's not Carver, essentially, is it?
Yeah.
Because Carver is a coach. Carver's not a manager. He's someone who will work alongside a great manager. And the biggest problem being he's been hung out to dry by Newcastle, essentially. And that's why they're standing by him, because they know that he's not meant to be in this job right now. So you do feel sorry for him.
He's lost 12 of his 17 games in charge.
Just keep your mouth closed. Do you know what I mean? Like, just don't say some of the things you're saying. You don't need to come out and call the players out like that.
What do you make of that? He said Williamson got sent off on purpose. That's what he felt. As Lawrence says, he dug out some of the players. I mean, okay, you have sympathy for the man up and to a certain extent, but that was outrageous.
It was outrageous, but I do genuinely feel sorry for him. I think he is a passionate fan of Newcastle United, and he's just out of his depth. I just don't think that he is. It would be the equivalent of putting me in the Chelsea chair. I couldn't do the job. I'd love to do the job. I'd try hard, but I get it all wrong because I'm not cut out for it. And I think John Carver is exactly the same.
Yourself.
No, true. Yeah, I think I do a very similar job to the one Carver's doing.
Yeah.
I just think he's incredibly out of his depth. And those comments, if you believe it, I'm not convinced that Williamson did do that. But if you believe it, let's just pretend that you did. Keep it in-house. It's disgraceful for Williamson, but keep it in-house. You cannot hang a player out to dry like that in the British press. We know how it goes down.
Do you think, though, that's partly that actually we don't see any managers do that?
For a reason.
There is something a little bit refreshing about it.
He's saying he's a pioneer. Is that what you're saying?
What I'm saying is the English have this real sort of, I don't know, there's a strange code about it where you don't dig someone else out like that in the press. Do you know what I mean? And
I'd say that was more of a gentlemanly conduct.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is, I think that you make a great point that he's a fan, and when someone cares so passionately about the club and they don't see someone working in the way that they want to see for the club, then you do think, you know what, you are right to call a player out.
Quickly, do you think Newcastle go down?
Yes, I do. I actually do. I can't see them getting any points. I think they're a club in turmoil, and I think it's tragic.
Oh, my goodness. Lawrence?
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry, Newcastle fans, not good news from the Football Daily Weekly. We think that perhaps you might go down. 4th spot is not yet decided, gentlemen.
Wrong.
Next.
You think it is? Well, mathematically, it's still possible for Liverpool to clinch 4th place. Manchester United have lost 3 in a row, the first time since 2001.
I can't see it.
No?
I really can't. I wish that
Not
there
after their blistering win against QPR?
I honestly do, because I'm really fearful of next season. I think that Manchester United a Manchester United team that qualifies for the Champions League, I genuinely believe will be Chelsea's biggest threat for the title next season. And for that reason alone, I'd love Liverpool to get there, but I just can't see it.
So do you think if Manchester United had Champions League football, it would
Absolutely.
rejuvenate the club, as opposed to what others might say, if they don't have European football, then they can concentrate on the league?
I think that Van Gaal is going to be backed in the transfer market to a crazy. I think pretty much anybody aside from Messi, Ronaldo, Van Gaal will have a blank check for.
Yeah.
But the caveat in that check is that Champions League football, because you can't sign Paul Pogba and not be in the Champions League, whereas you can sign anybody you want if you're Manchester United manager and in the Champions League, and it's just a shame that they are definitely going to get there.
Right. Lawrence, do you have any hope for Liverpool getting that last?
Mathematically,
Yes.
yeah.
Well, it's possible. But do you think they will?
What's 3 times 3? 9, is it?
Yeah.
9.
Yeah, there's 9 points left, I think.
So there's 4 points, and obviously
It's 5 points, though, isn't it?
because of
5
goal
points,
difference, it's effectively
Unless
5.
Liverpool go on a blistering run.
But Manchester United are having a poor run.
Yeah, blisters in a different way.
Yes.
You'd say though Liverpool didn't look particularly impressive over the weekend.
No.
Stumbled to a win, and there are strange goings on at Liverpool right now. The short-termism of some of the fans is crazy.
Well, the banner that was flown over.
Yeah.
Rogers out and Rafa in.
Yeah, weird, isn't it?
You don't want that.
Why would you? Buy,
You don't want that.
why would you buy that playing Rafa? Don't. Do
Yeah,
that.
that's right. That's right.
Terrible self-promotion.
You know. So no, Manchester United will finish 4th.
Oh, 100%, yeah.
Yeah.
I think what's 91%.
Yeah, 91%. There you go, which is as near as damn it. The treble is on for Barcelona. Indeed, it is. They're top of the league. They're in the semi-final of the Champions League, of course, and the final of the Copa del Rey against Athletic Bilbao. Quite remarkable, really. They didn't win. Well, it's not too remarkable. They've got a great side, but considering they didn't win a trophy or one of the big trophies last season under Martino, Luis Enrique's come in, and people had their knives out for him quite early on in the season. There was talk of him not getting on with Messi and all that kind of stuff, and here they are, on the verge of getting a treble, Lawrence, which would be an extraordinary achievement.
Well, those headlines went away very quickly, didn't they?
They did.
Yeah, when they started winning.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it was a strange one. But then, it's a great achievement for Barcelona. But then you also think, I guess the question is it the same? It's a different kind of achievement to the treble that they won in 2009.
Under Guardiola.
Yeah, I actually think this is a more competitive treble that they're winning, because they're against the likes of Atletico and Real in the league, if indeed they win it. I think they're definitely against a stronger Real for a start. Because because back in 2009 they weren't nearly the force that they are now.
It's been an incredible season for them. I think, particularly when you think around Christmas time, there was talk that Messi was really unhappy. It was a really sort of unsteady ship.
And they were about 5 points off the top at one point.
Yeah, they were struggling. Well, for their own high standards, they were struggling in the league.
Yeah, and Messi, as you say, there was a little bit of talk of him not getting on with the manager and so on. 51 goals this season.
Yeah, it's mental.
51
it's mental.
goals.
Yeah.
Just to spite Enrique.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Show him who's
Yeah.
boss. Yeah.
But Luis Enrique, I mean, the way he set Barcelona up is slightly different to
Certainly.
what we've come to expect. Well, because of the Guardiola domination at Barcelona. But he's got to take an awful lot of credit for that.
Yeah, they're aggressive in a different way.
Because under Martino in the previous season, they kept saying, I remember Piqué saying, we found a plan B, but that plan A and plan B didn't win them any trophies.
Yeah.
So he's come along and had to shape a few bits and pieces, and obviously Neymar is what, his second season now, is it something like that? Luis Suarez, he's blended those three in attack very well.
Yeah, although they're 3 very complementary players, I think, in that sense, and they all give them a different dynamic and outlet. Suarez is good wide, etc. Neymar's very good cutting in. Messi's good all over the place, and so they've got quite an adaptable front 3.
It's just an incredible front 3, isn't it? When you think, if you were in that team, say you were holding midfielder in that team, just go and play. Just give those 3 interchanging. It's almost an easy job for the manager, because there's 3 individual talents who are brilliant, who then complement each other and take them into the next level. It's just a crazy front 3. I think it actually outweighed the 3 that they had previously when they won the treble last time.
It does also show, though,
Which was a very strong front.
Yeah.
Henry, Eto'o and Messi.
Henry, Eto'o and Messi, yeah.
a very different kind of front 3 as well. One with a definite goal-scoring focus as an actual striker, whereas none of these 3 are kind of a
It's just
striker.
so fluid, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
So good.
But then, they're beating teams 8-0 and stuff, and you think, well, whose responsibility is that, I guess? Barcelona do have quite a bias within that league, as do Real Madrid.
Yeah.
And so when we're talking about these achievements, put them in the context of having all the TV money, having a domination of the politics within the country and those kind of things.
Well, that's your lot for this week, everybody. Thank you very much for watching. Do get your comments in below and let us know what you thought of all that. Thank you very much to Lawrence McKenna, as always, and Rory Jennings from Chelsea Fans Channel. We'll see you next time.